My name is Pam Packard. I host this community living room program the third Wednesday of every month right here in our corner. When the rug is out, the living room is in. That's what we like to say. And I usually don't do much in the way of introductions because I let my guests do that for themselves. But Al White, such a really, for so many years, a celebrity in this town.
Big fish, little pond. That's all.
There we go.
That's all.
Okay.
So I welcome you to the library. Thank you so much for coming in, and lots of competition in this town, so we're always grateful when people come in and see what we have going on here. So without further ado, I give you Al.
Boy, how do I follow that? So let's just be informal, because I know you, or I knew you better then than I do today. And it's nice to meet you, and thanks for popping in. How'd you get the word?
She told me about it. I was just applying to rent houses, and yeah, she told me.
So let me tell you what happened to me. And I had a recycling company in Flagstaff, and the Chinese were buying cardboard like there was no tomorrow. And so my partner and I went down to the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality and submitted a grant for a front-loading garbage truck and about 100 dumpsters to put around town. And are you here to see me?
Yes. Yeah.
Come on over.
Yeah. So you want to sit there, or you want to? No.
If you want the commission, I can carry it to you.
You here for the show? Yeah. Excellent.
Sure. Hi, how you doing? Good. So we wanted to pick up as much cardboard as we could. We had to deal with Weyerhaeuser Paper Company to buy the cardboard. They gave us a baling machine, and we really hit the ground running. So we went down there, we got this grant, we bought this 1984 front-loading garbage truck. Everybody knows how they work. You have the two arms that go into the dumpster, and it picks it up, puts it in the back. Those trucks work with hydraulics. The hydraulics operate the arms in the front, they operate the thing that lifts up the back of the truck, and then they operate a ram inside the truck that pushes all of the material out. Well, these guys on this particular day had gone out, and they didn't feel like going out twice, so they jammed all this cardboard in the back of the truck. They come back to the shop, they lift it back up, they open it up, the ram can't push the stuff out. They're running up the hill and driving back as fast as they can, stopping short, hoping that will knock the cardboard out. They were trying everything. In the meantime, they were complaining about it leaking hydraulic fluid. So I said, where's the hydraulic motor? And they said, it's in the front of the truck. So I'm gonna go watch it and see if it's where the leak is happening. They apparently, I don't know where the message got messed up. But so on these arms in the front, when it picks up the dumpster, where my elbows are is an 8-inch steel bar. And so I'm in front of the truck, I'm crouched down, I'm looking at this hydraulic motor, and I hear the truck winding up, and I'm going, so far so good, no hydraulic leaks. And instead of moving the cardboard in the back, they're bringing the arms down in the front. I'm crouched down. That 8-inch steel bar hits me in the shoulders, pushes my face into the truck, rips my nose off, and snaps my back between the shoulder blades. And so that's T3 and T4. If you know anything about a spinal cord, there's 7 cervical vertebrae. They're little tiny buggers that start at that bump in the back of your head and go down, and then they turn into the T's, and they get a little bit bigger as they go down. There's 12 of them. So T3 and T4 are right between the shoulder blades, and they assign the. So as soon as I'm getting crushed, I'm pounding on the truck, I'm yelling. They can't hear me over the noise of the motor, and then there was this ungodly snap, and that was my back. And at that point in time, if I'd have been kneeling or sitting down, I might have been able to get out of it, or just move. But because I was crouched down, the minute the bar hit my shoulders, it made contact, and I was stuck. I couldn't move. I couldn't go north, south, or east or west. But when my back broke, then I could fall to the side. And to this day, I swear I was really lucky in many ways. And the reason is they could have kept the bar coming down. They could have crushed my head. In fact, the newspaper reported it as a head injury. And the good news is it wasn't. The bad news is that was it. 15 seconds, and I was in a wheelchair for the rest of the time. And so they, here's the bizarre part. As if that isn't bizarre enough. The bizarre part is I was 44 years old. So when I was a little boy, if you broke your back, you died. I didn't think that I was going to live. I was pretty sure I'd killed myself. I was angry, I was sad, I was scared. I mean, all of these emotions at the same time running through. And so I'm laying there on the ground. My mechanic comes around from the front of the truck. He goes, oh man. He grabs my arm. He wants to pull me out of the driveway. I said, don't move me. My back's broken and I don't want to do any more damage. I'm awake for all of it. So I didn't even have the blessing of kind of waking up in the hospital going, what happened? I knew what happened. And so he sat down. He's got my head in his lap. I'm looking up at him. I'm bleeding because my nose got ripped off. And I wear contacts, or I wore contact lenses. And so the view of his face was like looking up from the bottom of a red swimming pool. I mean, it was nasty. And every time I looked at him, he started to cry. I should warn you, sometimes this talk is rated R. I have a tendency to just kind of unload sometimes, and then at other times I cry, and I can't help that. And you would think 25 years ago that I would be over it by now, but every once in a while I trigger something and I just start to bawl. So if that happens, forgive me, and we'll try to resume afterwards. But anyway, I'm laying on the ground in his lap, looking at him. He starts to cry. It's like, oh man, I was pretty much sure that I had bought the farm, and at that point in time, I didn't even think about an ambulance. I thought, go get my son. My daughter lived in Phoenix. My girlfriend was in Holbrook. My son was probably skipping school. No, it's 5 o'clock. He was out of school, but I had no idea where he was, and I wanted to say goodbye. And so then I just laid there going, you stupid idiot. You just killed yourself. The last person you're going to see is your mechanic. Tell me how much fun that would be. And there's a lesson here, and that lesson is to always tell the people that you know and love that you know and love them. Because you never know if there's going to be a shot where you can't see. Sorry. All right, back to the story. So in the meantime, they called the EMTs. And I'm laying there going, okay, so you only die once. What's it going to be like? Is it going to be, am I going to hover over the crowd and look down at the scene? Am I going to, is it going to be a tunnel with a white light at the end? Is my grandfather going to be there? I mean, it was a reverie of concentration and thought that made me go, oh try not to screw this up.
Oh.
So, anyway, it's been a while since I told this story. I'm having a hard time. So the EMTs get there, and of course they're all business, and so they're, you know, my name is Dave, and you know, I'm going to ask you that in 5 minutes. Well, can you feel this? And I was like, what? Can you feel this? What? And they're sticking me with a push pin all the way up my body to figure out where the level is. So one of those, can you feel this? I go, yeah, ouch. So then they made a line across, and that's how they knew what level. Then they put the collar on, and I said, do you think I'm gonna make it? And they're, oh yeah, buddy, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine, don't worry about it. And somewhere in the back, I hear somebody else, and I don't know how many people are there or any, but somebody said, he's half dead now. So this guy's saying, you're gonna be fine. This other guy's pronounced me, and anyway, long story short, I was fine. I get to the hospital. They slap me on a board. They pop me in the ambulance. I get to the hospital. The first thing they want to work on is my nose. Okay, so I can't feel anything from here down. I'm shot, but from here up I can, and I can feel my nose. And so I'm on this gurney or whatever. I'm on some kind of bed or platform or operating table, who knows. And the plastic surgeon is standing over me with his feet kind of in my armpits, leaning down, looking at me with his camera, taking flash cube shots 4 or 5 times, which I thought was kind of bizarre. And then he starts working, and then he puts a needle in to numb it. I can feel that. I'm screaming. He goes, you're doing a good job. And I stopped long enough to say, a good job of screaming? Yeah, good job. You're doing a great job. Okay, fine. Well, I'm going to continue. Anyway, then it numbed it up, and he sewed it and put it back together. And then I went in for surgery on the back, and I was in there for like 5 hours, and I came out of it stabilized, took a little bone off my hip, and screwed it in on either side of the broken vertebrae. So it went like this, which means that part of it was still connected, which means that they classified it as a complete injury. But even now, today, unless it's completely severed, they now call those, they don't know. And they're a lot more picky today about classifying things than they were back then. And so, you know, they called it complete, whereas today they say that, you know, maybe it's not, and you might get some sensation. And then they injected steroids and worked to prevent the swelling. Then you sit around for 18 months waiting for the swelling to go down to figure out what exactly condition you're going to be in, whether you're going to be, you know, able to get some recovery or not. But between each vertebrae, there are nerves that come out, and they operate different levels of your muscular, the things that you can control. The good news is you have a couple of nervous systems, and the autonomic nervous system is why I can still, below the break, I can feel, you know, hunger, and I know that when to eat and when not to, and you know, those kinds of things. But everything else is gone, and most people kind of figure that that as a paraplegic, you're kind of like them, but you just can't walk, or you sit down all the time. They don't really hook on to the fact that you've lost bladder control, bowel control, erectile function, a lot of things that normally you would do. So you have to kind of start over and relearn everything from the beginning. In fact, I was in the hospital, and back in those days, they had rehab, inpatient rehab in the hospital. And so You were in the hospital, they'd come in and get you for an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon to go down and start to relearn how to move and stuff. And I gotta tell you, the physical therapists and the nurses are the salt of the earth. So physical therapists help you kind of regain your sense of being able to move. The nurses are there to take care of all of these bizarre things. I mean, they're, you know, like, at the risk of grossing you out, I mean, basically they do all those functions for you until you learn how to do them. They're teaching you at the same time. I went through a ton of rubber gloves, learning how to go to the bathroom again. And little kids come up to you and they're like, "Hey, boy, what's the matter with you?" "I can't walk, I broke my back." "Well, how do you go to the bathroom?" They're precious because they don't have those filters, and they want to know the most. I just think it's wonderful, and so I'm willing to share whatever their little ears will bear. But so you're down. They put you in a wheelchair, take you down to physical therapy, throw you on a mat. You're laying there. They're going to teach you to roll over. The last time you had to think about rolling over, you were 3 months old. You don't even know that you were thinking about it. Now, 44 years old, I got to think about it again. So they teach you to put this arm by your side, take this arm over here, and then hurl it this way as much as you can. And you get a little bit off the mat, and boom, back down. You get a little bit off the mat. Next time, maybe you're up this much. You're working it out. You're screaming at yourself. You're sweating. You hate it. Whoop! I spilled my water. I'm from New England. We talk with our hands. Sorry. You throw your arm over. Finally, you do it. You get it over there, and everybody else in rehab is giving you a round of applause. And I was crying, of course. Sorry.
That's okay. Water
Appreciate
dries. Water hurts nothing at all.
So yeah, there's that. But then you're in this dilemma of what happens next. And then the other thing is I also believed from watching, Born on the 4th of July, about Ron Kovic, that I was going to be in the hospital for 6 months. So I'm going to physical therapy every day, and they're going, "You're doing really good, you're doing really good." There's physical therapy and there's occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is supposed to try to teach you how to function again. Physical therapy gets you moving, but occupational therapy is okay now. And for many people, it's really, really crucial in terms of speech therapy, strokes coming back, learning how to feed yourself. If you don't have fingers, you have a spoon that's strapped to your hand, and these kinds of things. So my physical therapy exercise was to come down the hill from the hospital, go to Bash's', go in, buy my food, take it back, go up the hill again, back to the hospital, cook it, and eat it. And I decided I was going to have rice and broccoli and asparagus. So you go into the store and they give you a basket, and I got a reacher to be able to pull stuff off the shelf. How do you move? How do you move? I got one hand on the wheelchair, one hand on the reach. I got to put the reacher on. No. I wheel into the store. There's everybody being normal. This is the first time I've been out of the hospital. I start to cry. I'm telling you, man, you guys probably think I'm the biggest baby you could ever meet. But it was just unbelievable and overwhelming. But you got to do it. So here we go. And here's the bizarre thing about this. It's occupational therapy. It's supposed to teach you what to do, but it has nothing to do with what you're going to do once you get out of the hospital. Now, I wheel into the store, I go over to the service desk, I ask for somebody to help. I get one of the kids who's delighted to not be bagging groceries anymore. They come around, they follow me, we go, we're talking, we're having a blast. They're happy to not be bagging groceries, I'm happy to have their help. They're pulling stuff off the shelves, putting it in, unload the cart, you know, I mean, so here's where I first learned that I can teach the therapist something. And I know that they have your best interest in mind, but they're not always thinking about exactly how it's all going to work. And once you know some of those things, and you go back, because I still go to physical therapy now. I go 3 times a week just to stay strong. And Medicare, which had an issue with that at one point in time, got sued over that because you can prove that by doing that, you stay out of the hospital for the big things that they really would have to pay. So they're much better off covering $45, whatever they negotiate with your therapist, 3 times a week than they are $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 when you're in the hospital for a week because you didn't stay strong. And that too was enlightening. And so all of the things that you're starting to learn are things that you go, you know, I should be showing other people this. So the analogy I always used about the situation you're in is you're a fish swimming downstream, you know, doing your thing. You get caught, you get pulled out of the water. They don't want you because you're a sucker or a carp, not a trout. And they throw you on the bank, and that's it. Now you're flopping around. You don't know whether you're going to live or die or what. And that's really kind of how you feel. So you got to try to make the best of it. And people want to know what you're going to do. My family back east, they chipped in and bought a computer. 1996 computer was a television screen like this, about this deep. A keyboard about this big and a tower this tall. $5,000. I mean, it was unbelievable. I was thankful that they did it, but to a certain extent, I resented the fact that they assumed that this is how I was going to live, or that now I would have to work on the computer, and then the other thing that they said was, now you need to come back to Massachusetts to live. And the thought at 44 of me going back and living with my mom, it just was not going to fly. And so I'm already starting to get some of the seeds of independence that are necessary to be able to go, no, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to live here, I'm going to figure this out. I got to get my house redone. When you're in the hospital and people come to see you, they all go, is there anything I can do? If there's anything I can do, tell me if there's anything I can do. And usually you just go, thanks for being there. I don't really have anything that you can do. I mean, there's not much you can do. But I didn't. I knew what they could do. Here's what you can do. Find me a place to live. Because I can't go back to my trailer. The front door is 3 feet off the ground. The back door is 2 feet off the ground. I can't get in. I don't have any ramps. The place isn't set up. And so they found me a place to live. And that's where I met Dave. Dave, from the goodness of his heart, donated his time and energy and helped me make the apartment that I got accessible. There needed to be a ramp. I had to make a deal with the apartment owner to have the parking space dedicated to me so that other people wouldn't park there and I'd be able to park when and if I got a car. And at that point in time, I didn't have any car or even a notion about driving. But I had to have the bathroom vanity pulled out under the sink. I had to have it so that I could go from my chair to the toilet to the bathtub to the back and so forth and so on. One time I was out of the wheelchair and on the couch. My partner shows up, he grabs a chair, he goes over to the computer, he starts doing some work. He remembers that he forgot something at home. He gets out of the chair and goes off to his house. I'm on the couch, the chair is where Pam is, and it's like, hey, hey, Warren, I'm screwed, I can't move. And all of these things are new experiences that are just, they throw you. You don't even think about the stuff that you have to go through.
Where did he go back to? Did he go back to Cherry?
Say that again?
I'm trying to remember. Did Warren go a mile or 3 away, or?
Yeah, I gave him the company. It was kind of like, I can't do anything, with it. I'm probably out of it forever. And it's all yours, buddy. Take it and do what you can with it. But a year later, we ended up shutting it down and going bankrupt, and he left and went back to Portland. I've seen him a couple of times since. He's doing well, and he's having, it's just a totally different experience. I gotta say that running that company, I was dirty, I was poor, but I never had more fun. We were growing it, we were moving around. I would go out and talk to businesses and get a dumpster set there and get their cardboard. We'd go into the schools and teach kids the value of recycling and how important it was, and tell them to go home and make sure their parents signed up. So it was fun. I had a blast.
And you're the
8
father
years.
of recycling in Flagstaff.
Yes.
What's that?
You're the father of recycling in Flagstaff, is how I regard it.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. Well, we did get it started in the curbside fashion, and we did push to make it happen. And then we pushed the city, and then I bid on the facility that's over there and lost. Came in second to the company that did it. And this is an aside from the story I really want to tell you. But I could go in there if there was anybody left there that was there then and say, I told you so. But these guys, they blew it. And it's not entirely their fault. The deal at the time, recycling was making money. We bid and said, the city, you need to be our partner. They went in and said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of everything. And they did. The contract was written that way, and then when the bottom fell out of the market, and frankly, it's not a market that makes money. The contracts or the deals need to be written so that the two partners chip in when things are bad, and when things are good, they split the profits. And I have no idea what they're going to do now that they're out on a limb again, but we'll see. But that's a totally different
To
story.
make it profitable, would it be good to work with like the lumber companies that turn trees into paper? Has to have a recycling firm attached to it. That's a requirement for the lumber company. That way,
What I think would make it
Because the volume
successful would
makes
be
it profitable.
if the government said, and people hate this because it's government regulation, but if the government said everything you make has to be made out of 50% post-consumer used goods, and if they did that, they could create an industry gathering all that stuff and put it together, and then they would create the markets for it. They've done that with aluminum cans. They've done it to a certain extent with newspaper. They've done it with the number 1 and number 2 plastics, but they just haven't gone. And cardboard right now is down to $20 a ton. It cost me $65 a ton to process it. But when we were bidding on that thing, we were getting $200 a ton. We were sending 3 semis a week out of Flagstaff at $5,000 a piece. My partner and I were looking at Pathfinders, and then boom, the bottom fell out, and it's a good thing we didn't get them. And it was right after that we lost the bid, and that was in June, and in November I broke my back. So 1996 is a year that I could skip. I could do that one some other time. But back to what's really important is what do you do afterwards? What do you do? How do you come back? And how do you come back in such a way that you have more than just getting by in life? You're doing well, and you're having a good time, and you're thriving. And the key is it's competency and pleasure. So I call it tidings of comfort and joy, because, and so this happened. So a couple of years into it, before I got on the council, before I did half of the things that I ended up doing to enjoy myself, I'm sitting on this new computer they got me, and I'm playing solitaire. And I'm playing solitaire for like 5 hours a day, and I'm going, this is bullshit. This is not me. I don't like this. I went to see my shrink, and I got to tell you, this guy's name is John Zarski. And when I got custody of my kids, I went to him for advice on how to raise them, because my wife had done most of that stuff when we were together, and she took them and went back to Massachusetts when we split up. But they were miserable, she was miserable, and she got involved with a abusive guy. And the kid said, we want to come live with you, Dad. I said, that's no problem. She sent them off. I asked her, is this going to bother you? She's like, it's safer. It's safer. And it was. And so I got them, and I got custody. Now I got a daughter who's 10 years old. She's going to grow up into womanhood. What do I do? I don't know how to deal with it. I had to figure this stuff out. So I went to see this John Zarski. John Zarski gives me like 7 hourly sessions. He has a diagnosis he puts in, insurance covers it, but I'm getting lessons. And it's lessons on kids at what age to make, that you can talk to them, where you've got to be a bond. It was just fascinating stuff. And so when I got hurt, he showed up in the hospital. I'm laying in the bed. I wake up and he's sitting in a chair next to me, and he goes, hey, I read about you in the paper. I said to my wife, you're going to be okay, because I know this guy. And then he said, and do you think about killing yourself? So right after I'm pronounced going to be okay, he's asking that question. But it was a great question, because the thought crossed my mind. But as fast as it came in, I dismissed it, because first of all, I had that encounter where I'm laying on the ground and I was thinking about death, and I got excited about it, and I know a couple of things now, and those are, I don't think it hurts, number one. I think it's the end of all pain, and so I'm okay with that. I'm not afraid of it anymore, so I said to him, I've thought about it, but it would be stupid, because I'm going to die anyway, and why do I want to rush it? And now I got to see how I'm going to live this way. And to a certain extent, there were all these periods or moments in time where you knew you were getting better, and you knew that it was going to be okay. And I think that's really important. I run a support group for people with spinal cord injuries and traumatic brain injuries and MS, because it's all central nervous system related, and a lot of the equipment is the same, and a lot of the symptoms are the same, and so you can share all of that stuff. And I swear, the earlier in an injury situation that you get to one of those, the better and faster you're going to start to recover, because you see somebody you're thrown into this world where you have no idea what's going to happen, and then you see somebody who's okay. So I get a call one day to come and talk to a group about the barriers, both physical and emotional, that you run into as a newly injured person in Flagstaff. And ironically, at the same time, I had read an article in the Arizona Republic, in the lifestyle section, about Barbie's dream house. And Barbie's dream house, Barbie has a friend, Midge, who's in a wheelchair, and she can't get into the damn dream house because it's not accessible. And it's like, wow, this is a microcosm. So I brought the article with me and talked about it, and I talked about the, how a threshold can stop you, and all of the things that I ran into. And the biggest emotional barrier is the loss of socialization. I mean, I'm fairly outgoing, and I have a lot of friends, but you know what? Once you're in a wheelchair and you look like me, and you get, a lot of people just won't talk to you. I found the people that would come up and talk to me were people that either had a relative in a wheelchair or worked with people in wheelchairs, and they were willing to talk. Everybody else kind of avoided you, and I have my theories as to why that is. I think primarily it's one of these deals where if I don't see it, it doesn't exist, and there but for the grace of God go I, and I don't want to think about that possibility, so let's just talk to these people and the hell with this guy. And to a certain extent, I understand that.
I would say
It's not.
I would say it's more like I like playing basketball. I want to go ride a bike. I want to go press a gas pedal and drive a car. I can't talk about none of that with you.
Say that again?
Yo, you want to hang out and play basketball? I can't ask that to you. It's like
Yeah.
all the sports stuff is like,
So
no, I just have nothing else to talk about.
So remind me about the basketball
Not the
in a minute, because
not the disgrace. That's what I think is more.
well, and I could, I mean, they didn't come forward and offer that, but it's a great thought. I mean, why not? And you automatically you're in a different category, I guess, is the thing. But remind me about the basketball in a minute, because I got to tell you. So after that talk, some people came up and said, you should join the Flagstaff Disability Awareness Commission. So I applied and I got on, of course, and I ended up chairing it later on. But one of the things that I was able to do while I was on that commission, they were building Heritage Square, and the parking situation underneath Heritage Square, they got an exception to making it ADA standard. At the time, the ADA standard for a vehicle was 8'6". They have a 7-foot ceiling in there now. They don't have handicap spaces with the crosshatch next to them. They just have regular. They got an exemption for that. And when I found out about that, I was bullshit. I was like, this is crap. And I went down to City Hall and said, who gave permission for this? And I ended up in the city manager's office, and we ended up talking about, I must have struck a nerve, because he started scurrying and he found 4 parking spaces in that lot across from Charlie's and got them assigned. One of them he got Heritage Square Foundation to pay for and give some money to the city so the city could go out and try to rent more of those spaces around downtown. And he said, is that acceptable? I said, well, it's acceptable to me. I don't know. I can only speak for myself, but nice work. And then I realized, man, one person, you can make a difference. You can make a difference. A group of folks were running for city council, and they were trying to put together a team to run. And they approached me to say, are you interested in doing it? And it was more, less for the wheelchair than it was for the fact that I was an independent. So one guy was a Republican, and one guy was a Democrat, and I was an independent. And then we had Tony, and Tony was essentially a socialist. But the idea was the 4 of us could throw aside our differences, concentrate on 5 issues, and run for council. And 4 of us winning at the same time would take over a majority on council. So that was the plan. And so we did it. We never even made it to the election. The team was split up before that. But 3 of us ran and 2 of us won. The mayor was Donaldson, and then I got on. And got on by 30 votes. It was unbelievably close. In fact, I was at a budget session, listening and trying to figure out, the budget, and I didn't even know if I was going to be on. And at 11 o'clock, they came down and said there was we recounted, and you won. Here you go, and congratulations. And we stopped and had cake for a minute, and then went back to the budget session. But that's why every vote matters. I mean, it really is true. So now I'm on the Flagstaff City Council. So I was on the Disability Awareness Commission. I got stuff done. I'm on the council, and I always tell people I had a successful term. Even if the day after the election I got hit by a bus, I had a successful term because now they had to make City Hall accessible. There was no way to get up to the dais. They put in a ramp, that ramp that's there now. You should name it after me. No, that ramp that's there, and the doors and the automatic doors and all that stuff was a question of this. Now we have a guy on the council in a wheelchair. So I say I had a successful term even if I never served a day, but I ended up serving for 12 years, and I was vice mayor twice, which I just say because I went from winning by 30 votes to winning by all the votes, and that to me was an indication I was doing something right.
That means you get the most votes in any election for council person. Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Being vice mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get so that
Oh.
in 2004 and 2008, then I ran in 2012 for mayor and lost. Easy come, easy go. That's the way it is. What are you gonna do? And that's okay. But then I was the chairman of the Flagstaff Housing Authority. I tell you that to tell you this: the sky is the limit for what you can do, regardless of how low you go at some point in time, and it's just a question of picking out something you want to do, chasing it, and doing it, and having fun at it, and using it to make it so that you enjoy yourself. And so I've been off the council now for 10 years, but I'm on the board of directors of Quality Connections, which is a company that puts people with disabilities to work and houses them. And I've watched that company grow from one guy working out of the owner's backyard to we have 7 group homes. We have over 100 employees. We're a $6 million agency now, and I'm very proud of that. And then I've been on the board of directors of Theatricals since 2006, and I have my support group. And I was calling council members yesterday about this hospital project and about the recycling center, and you just stay involved. You just stay involved, have a good time. You meet a ton of people, you make good friends, and I mean, what else is there? What else is there in life? So the trick is how do you account for loss and turn it into a situation where now you thrive? I don't know that there's a magical formula, except that I think that it's get involved, find something that you love, do it, and get others to do it. Be contagiously enthusiastic about things, and it works. And be thankful, because everybody I've met along the road has been willing to help in certain ways. I mean, right down to strangers. Trying to get in my van sometimes, the goddamn ramp is so steep, I'm having a struggle. I'll grab somebody and say, can you give me a hand? And they're always delighted to do it, and I'm always delighted that they are. And you shoot the shit about it for a minute or something, and it's it's just a wonderful give and take, I guess is. And so don't dwell on what you can't do anymore. Concentrate on what you can do and get somebody to help you. And there you go. I guess that's it. It's almost 7. I'm supposed to talk for a few minutes and then have you guys ask questions or talk back. The thing about basketball, so I get on the city council, and one of the very first things I do is I organize a basketball game. I get the county board of supervisors and all the city council members. We get in wheelchairs and we have a basketball game with the Phoenix Suns basketball team. Now the Phoenix Suns, they're called the Banner Suns. These guys, they built their own chairs. Their chairs are about this high at the seat. They're cambered wheels. They got a ring of metal around them because they go crashing into each other. They get flipped out of these chairs. They stop and they can crawl back up and get in. They're unbelievable. They spotted us 75 points. And they beat us 77-75. We never scored a point. I got the ball. I'm like, what do I do with it? I throw it up. I can't even reach the basket. I got the ball. I'm trying to dribble. How do I dribble? You put the ball in your lap. You hope it doesn't roll off, and you start to roll. I'm going, how come I'm not going anywhere? One of those guys is behind me. He's got the back of my chair. He's picking it up off the ground. And the wheels are spinning. I'm not going anywhere. He's laughing. Hey, having a hard time dribbling, are you? Yeah. Yeah, put me down. Let me go. Get him off me before I kill him. You know what I mean? And that was the point there, is to show those guys what I go through in a chair. The next year, I think we had a scavenger hunt where we left City Hall, went into Wheeler Park. You had stops along the way. You had to gather something and bring it back. Whoever came back with the first with the whole hunt was the winner. Not that you won anything, but everybody had, so you had to come down the ramp at City Hall. You had to go across the street. You had to go through Wheeler Park. You had to go over that bridge they used to have to the library. Do they still have that?
No.
That's gone, right? Yeah, through the library, pick up stuff in the bathroom here. So you had to go into the bathroom in a wheelchair. I mean, it was rough stuff. I had to do it every day, but these guys never did. And so when they did, it's a lesson. I had a blast doing it and showing them because, it was a teaching experience. So anyway, do you guys have questions?
I do. Going back to when you said that your nose was pretty much torn off and that doctor was over you with the camera, did you ever see any pictures of yourself?
He came in, so they packed both sides of my nose with 3 feet long pieces of this that looked like a shoelace in there, and I couldn't breathe through my nose for 9 days. So I was breathing through my mouth. Try sleeping that way. I mean, it's nasty. There was a nurse in the hospital. Her name was Amy. She's probably 100 and something years old. I don't know. She was a sweetheart. She came in. She would put ice chips on my lips and my tongue at night and roll me over and do all sorts of stuff when I was first in the hospital. So he comes in, the plastic surgeon comes in, and he's tapping on my nose. He's going, great, it's bone. It's solidified. And I was like, can you get the damn things out? and he's going, all in good time, 7 days. He said, it's going to be a week. On day 7, I call him up and go, hey, these babies need to come out. Oh, you should leave them in for 2 more days. I said, 2 more days is what you get. And at the end of 2 days, they're coming out because I'm going nuts. But he said, oh, you got bone. It's all working out really well. Now I can see the difference. I used to have a Roman nose, but now it's kind of a shorter flattered baby, but nobody else can see it. I mean, everybody's like, your nose came out just fine. But he said, I got those pictures back. You want to see them? And I never did. I said, no, I don't want to see them. I think they would freak me out. And because when my mom showed up, she flew out, and when she saw me, she's trying to be brave, but she started to cry because I was hideous. I mean, long hair with blood in it. I mean, my face is torn. I'm glad to not see that. I don't need to see that at all. Move forward.
I'm sitting here thinking of all kinds of things. I had a heart attack when I was 55 years old, and most women that have their first heart attack that age don't survive. Well, I had a handicapping experience, but my husband used to call me a ballsy broad, and I guess I am.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, good for you.
And I got involved and participated. One of the groups had a good friend named Katie Archer. You might have run across her. She was on the Council for Aging.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I remember her saying, if you guys don't get on it now, there won't be anybody when it comes your turn. Okay, well, I was involved. I did a group called Mended Hearts. We go in and went in. COVID changed everything.
Oh, yeah.
Visited other coronary patients, spoke with them, to stand up and look like I do now after this many years. It gives them hope. And we would talk with the family members because, kind of like your first stages. Well, when I was a kid, somebody had a heart attack, they just sat in a chair till they died. You don't know the avenues and the resources that are available. COVID caused that to go away. And I'm sitting here thinking of Katie Archer and the Council on Aging, or whatever it's called, and I'm thinking, and you're talking about being on, what commission are you on?
Well, it was the Disability Awareness Commission. It was created in '90 by Chris Bavasi, the mayor. So it was called the Mayor's Committee for Disability Awareness initially, and then it became a city commission. But they were charged with making sure that the city of Flagstaff complied with the ADA, which had just been passed in '90 or '92 or something.
So I'm rambling and wandering here, but how do we as information librarians get this information out to people? What other commissions are there? What are the qualifications? How would I pick and choose something that, because the hospital's doing their thing now, even post-COVID. So our service is not available, and I've heard people say,
So the disability, it's now called the Commission on Inclusion and something else.
Adaptive living or?
Adaptive Living and Inclusion.
All the same.
Are you on it?
No, I heard about it.
Yeah.
Accessibility.
Oh, accessible.
You go on the city's webpage and you look at boards and commissions, and there's a list of all of the ones, and they all need people. And you get on. The trouble with them, cause we used to have a budget, and they've cut the budgets for those things, and now they're largely ceremonial to a certain extent. But I think that they're as good as you make them. When I got on, it was like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to publish advice for how businesses can make their businesses more accessible, cheaply, because one of the downsides of the ADA was that businesses thought, well, now I gotta spend tons of money to make my place accessible. And all the ADA calls for is reasonable accommodation. The ADA is more of a problem in terms of employment because people are afraid to hire people with disabilities because they're gonna have to make the place accessible. But it's really easy in a lot of cases. Ramps, get a guy like Dave, man, Dave will build you a ramp and a spiral staircase. No.
We should have hired Dave for our front entrance.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be done by now, that's for sure.
Not with that snow.
Right.
So basically, you're saying, me personally, just go onto the website and find the commissions and find a match for me. But how do we get that information?
How do you get that information out?
Out, yeah.
I mean, at this point in time, it seems like there isn't anything that isn't out all the time. Like Facebook, you get on your social media and you say, I know about this, and here's how you do it. It's I don't know that if people read anymore, and so I'm not sure. I'm sure they do. Here we are in a library. Look at all the books. But there's.
The library could partner with people over at City Hall to say, hey, let's hold an open house about the different ways that people, or the different boards that people could sit on. So it just, people need to get together to do these.
And I'm thinking of the night out that I think it's City puts on, where you get your free hot dog and police department, fire department, and different council members are out there in Thorpe Park. And that might be a place that these commissions, if we could stir the brains and say, let's do this.
So Parks and Recreation has a commission, and that commission, maybe the thing to do is get on that commission and say, hey, we're terrible at getting the message out. Let's work on that and make it happen, and work with the Disability Commission. I think the city has their webpage. They also there's also news. There are some newsletters. There's Flag Business News. There's the chamber. I'm guessing the chamber has ambassadors, they call them, and they go, they do ribbon cuttings and those kinds of things. There's lots of places that you could infiltrate and take over.
That would be a good term for me. Yes.
It is.
Yes.
It's be subversive, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
So, what's your name?
I'm Sally
Hi,
Page.
Sally.
Sally works here.
I was in public education.
Adi?
I was gonna go to a completely different subject, but
Sure.
have you ever, I'm kind of a hippie, but would you ever use CBD lotion or any of that to soothe?
I invented that shit. No, I'm kidding. I go with edibles. I don't smoke anymore. I smoked cigarettes for years, and I'm old. I'm 70 something. So I don't want to smoke anymore. But I take the edibles, and now I take them at night. And I don't go to parties on them or anything. I'm not high right now. But yeah, I think that stuff. Man, whatever gets you through, there's a reason for it, and there's a reason that states are legalizing it now, and there's a medical use and all that. I'm not sure. I've been doing it for 50 years, so I started in high school. It was different. It was way different then, and now the stuff is hugely powerful. One hit, man, I'm gone these days. But I don't do it very often, and now I kind of take it at night if I'm in bed or something like that. I'm gonna help me sleep. helps to ease spasticity. So what's my back is this much of it's bad, and that's it. My spinal cord. So the signals.
Still good though, right? Because you said it was the.
Yeah, it just got tweaked.
And it's
So-
slowly healing.
So the signals from, if you bang your knee on a table, what makes you go ouch? That signal goes from here to your brain, it goes ouch, and maybe back down. My signals don't go all the way up. They go to the break and then they go back down. And that causes some spasticity. Sometimes I can get them to kick up.
Like the road mallet test, right?
Yeah, but it's a lot more complex. They're not gonna do it for me now because as soon as you guys leave. I'll be home.
I was just thinking that you are really a frightening guy with that irrepressible spirit.
I'm a what?
You're frightening with that irrepressible spirit.
Yeah.
So many years later, I mean, I salute you.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice. I appreciate it. To me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, so a friend of mine at the canyon, he got hurt before I did. He was driving back down from the canyon to Flag, hit an elk, destroyed the elk, broke his back really, really low, way down by his butt. So he's got good torso. And he came into the hospital shortly after I got hurt on hand crutches, and he was standing in the doorway and he said, I heard you got hurt. How are things and so forth. And I was glad to see him. And it was a good example of I hadn't given it any thought before. I knew about his accident and he left the canyon, was living down here. But when I saw him and he came in, it was really good to see him. And it was, I was like, okay, this guy's walking. I mean, I wonder if that'll happen. It didn't and won't, but it didn't matter. It was good to see him. Anyway, long story short, he didn't do very well. He was miserable and he was in the bars all the time and he was drunk most of the time. And the physical therapist said, they said, you can look in somebody's eyes and see who's going to make it and who's not. And I never was able to do that, but they work with people every day, and so they could see. And I guess that's the spirit you're talking about, because to me, that was an obvious choice. You want to die or you want to live? Well, I already had that brush with that. I got plenty of time for that later. So
And
we have to wrap it up.
well, we necessarily do not have to, no, but I am going to officially kind of just wrap it up, but then no, please feel free to visit and talk for as long
Thanks for having me.
as you want to. I am just so honored and privileged to have had you here, and thank you all for coming into this program, and